unique identity, or the Aadhar, was one of the high-profile projects of the UPA government. By roping in India's smartest technocrat, Aadhar was the UPA's way of using cutting-edge technology to transfer benefits in a corruption-free manner. But after 5 years of backing, last week the government put on hold its program of paying cash on the basis of Aadhar identity to those entitled to subsidized LPG gas. LPG was the only instance where Aadhar was used to transfer cash instead of subsidies on a national scale. And this discontinuation is a big setback to Aadhar. But there are bigger dangers bedeviling Aadhar. The Supreme Court has said Aadhar identity cannot be mandatory to get government benefits. The government in the remaining 2 weeks won't be able to get a law to mandate Aadhar. And worse, the BJP has been saying it prefers the National Population Register to transfer benefits than Aadhar. So, will Aadhar survive? That's the question we're asking today. If the next government were not to actively back Aadhar, has the system created enough mass of benefits for state governments, banks and the lay citizen to want the scheme to continue? To answer this, I have with me 3 people actively using Aadhar. Sanjay Jaju, IT Secretary of Government of Andhra Pradesh; M. Balachandran, Chairman of National Payments Corporation, the company that ensures cheaper payment systems between banks; and Govindrath Etiraj, a former editor of CNBC TV 18, who has served 1 year as a volunteer in the UIDAI. Gentlemen, welcome. Sanjay, let me start with you. As a leading bureaucrat who has used Aadhar in your state, just tell us to what extent is Aadhar important for Andhra Pradesh government to transfer benefits?
Lata, you would know that Andhra Pradesh is one state which has actually completed the enrollment for the entire population. More than 8 crore Aadhar numbers have been generated for our state, and the rest of the numbers are in the pipeline. We have also set up permanent enrollment centers for residents to come and update their Aadhar status, or for the residual population to get themselves enrolled. And we were the first state also to start the seeding of various beneficiary databases with Aadhar numbers. And we were also the first state possibly to have started the direct benefit transfer, especially with the LPG, Narega wages and pensions. So we had started to make use of Aadhar as a base for direct benefit transfer.
Okay.
There were challenges, but I'm sure this holds a huge potential and definitely has a future for the country.
Okay, I'll come back to you with to what extent you can hold Aadhar responsible for the direct benefit not working. But in a minute that, Mr. Balachandran, to what extent do you use Aadhar?
In fact, the day Aadhar became an identity kind of thing, the thought process went to the extent that why not it be linked to the bank accounts, so that any kind of payments that could be made from any source, more particularly from government side, could be routed through that number, with that as an identification. As far as National Payment Corporation of India is concerned, we are leveraging our national financial switch for routing all the payments which have Aadhar number as an identity. So that presupposes seeding of Aadhar numbers in the bank accounts. Okay. And today we have about 268 banks wherein this seeding has taken place. And we started with a pilot project in Jharkhand in January 2013. And now it has become operational from June 2013. Now, what
approximately how much money or how many transactions? Give me a number as to how many transactions are Aadhar based.
Now, right now we have about 60 million accounts which have been linked to the Aadhar. We have an Aadhar payment bridge as a kind of channel for routing this transaction. Roughly around 2,700 crores of rupees have so far been channelized. And every month, in fact in December, we had around 11 million transactions routed, and January it had gone up to 15 million.
Okay.
And what started as a direct benefit transfer for routing the subsidy of for LPG now got expanded to other benefits as well, like pension payments, student subsidy, stipends, so on and so forth.
Fair enough. Can you also tell me, you were telling me before we started the show that it is also getting used by banks for banking correspondence to ensure financial inclusion.
That is another module that we have, which is known as Aadhar enabled payment system, wherein once the money gets into the accounts of the people, either through Aadhar payment bridge or through any other means, now we would like to see that people are able to draw that money through the banking correspondence. For that, we have RuPay as a card, debit card or ATM card, which could be used, and the beneficiaries or the account holders, they go to the banking correspondence.
How widespread is it?
Now around 26 banks have already got themselves enrolled. Now it is picking up. Now these people go to the banking correspondence, use their biometric identification process, get their account validated through Aadhar number, and get the money transfer that is drawn. And even if they have got amounts to be deposited, the same system works. So Aadhar is now, as a number identification, is used by National Payment Corporation.
I get your point that you have been able to have 2,700 crores transferred by the government to intended beneficiaries.
45 central government and state government departments
are using
45 departments in the center have been using this kind of plans.
These are the two individual users of one a functional area of finance and another in a state of Andhra Pradesh. Govt, I want the bigger picture. Where else have you seen the spread of Aadhar?
Okay. Lata, let me take a step back, because then it's easier to understand. I think Aadhar was created for two reasons. One was to give every Indian resident a unique identity, right? So that's the primary purpose.
Yes.
The second purpose was to, of course, this identity would be truly portable and mobile, which no identity has ever been in this country. Remember, every identity in this country has been linked to either a benefit or an entitlement, right? Think of the US Social Security system. It's the only number that you can identify someone with, but it's a benefit or an entitlement, that is Social Security. Similarly, in India, you have PAN numbers, you have driving licenses, you may have a pension number, but it's all a number which is all connected to some entitlement or a benefit, right? So that's the fundamental difference, that this is a unique identity which does not have any property or value attached to it. The second objective was to make this number truly usable and relevant to people in their daily lives. How do you attach some level of functionality to it? That functionality was authentication, i.e., if I go somewhere and if it's attached or gets connected to some service, can I authenticate myself? So once you said authentication, there were a host of services which were supposed to be for authentication. What you see as DBT or direct benefits transfer is one such authentication application, as the way UID defines it. And there are many, as Mr. Balachandran himself has pointed out. So that's really the background.
It can be to get a telecom card. It could
be to get a telecom card. It could be to even open a bank account, which has nothing to do with the transaction, right? So the whole eKYC product which UID has launched is basically allows people to walk into a branch. There are banks like Axis Bank and Oriental Bank of Commerce, HDFC Bank, they've all started rolling out. You can go to their branch, authenticate yourself with your biometric, and then open a bank account. Earlier, opening a bank account meant carrying, whole sheets of paper.
KYC has been a big challenge.
eKYC is clearly
right. So there is authentication. Under authentication comes a whole bunch of applications. Some are to do with delivery of subsidies and benefits. Others are to do with banking. There could be a third element to do with education and a whole bunch of other things which still has to be rolled out as I see it.
Okay, point taken. Now, let me get one more point out of the way, and then I come to my prime question. Can it survive as a voluntary service without government backing, which we may very well stare come, say, May or June? Sanjay, first of all, in your experience, to what extent is Aadhar responsible for the DBT, the direct benefit, not working? Because that was the hue and cry which led to the abandonment of Aadhar being used in DBT.
Lata. You just heard Mr. Balachandran that more than 2,700 crores has actually been transferred. So saying that DBT has not worked will also not be accurate, because the amounts have gone. This entire process works on seeding Aadhar numbers in beneficiary databases. And this job has to be done by the respective department. And once you seed the numbers, then you push those records into the banks, and then the banks will ultimately channelize it through the NPCIL, and then finally the amount gets into the bank's accounts. But the challenge here has been accurate seeding of Aadhar numbers, which in many cases could not be done. And the reason for that possibly was paucity of time. I think for a project of this nature to roll out, you require time. You require time not just to do the seeding, but to verify that the numbers which have been seeded have been done correctly. I think we didn't allow that time to be given for this particular project. Second aspect is it has to be done step by step. It cannot be done for the whole country in one go, because the nature of Aadhar enrollment also is not uniform across the country. There are states, there are districts where this has made significant progress, and there are states and districts where still the number generation is very poor. So again, if you are planning to roll it out uniformly, you will always face challenges in terms of the numbers being generated and the impact of it on the seeding of those numbers in the beneficiary database.
Point taken. You are establishing that clearly it is not Aadhar to be blamed, but probably inaccurate seeding and not enough backing by the respective governments, which might have led in several states for the system to not work.
So, I think you have to, LPG is a very interesting case, right? So LPG was always a very good candidate because it was the oil companies who were equally interested in getting something like this going because they want to save on subsidies, right? So they were almost desperate, if I may say so, to add this on.
I was actually trying to get an oil company also into the discussion, but they could not come and did not want to say too much on record. But the sources told me, Sanjay, I'll tell you what the sources said. What the chairman, sources close to the top management said that when they, first shared their databases, they could weed out purely through deduplication some 10 to 15% of cards. So that was their biggest saving. In their other related areas, if they looked at it, where they could delete, fake cards and ghost cards, the benefit was more like 2 to 3%. So while they were happy with it, they thought that, with Aadhar going away, they were not really weeping that they're going to lose a lot of money they could have otherwise saved. Sanjay.
So what I was trying to say, it's not about the backing. The one question that you asked was, will a program like Aadhar survive as a voluntary exercise? To my mind, it won't.
Sanjay, you know what? I'll come to that in a minute. We have to take a break. And after the break, that is exactly the question I'm going to ask. Is there enough private sector initiative and desire for Aadhar to continue? And what happens if the government were not to back it? All those questions after the break.